In 1988, I was called to Kenyon College in Gambier, Ohio, to be the rector of the parish located in the center of that campus. We were there at the Church of the Holy Spirit for 8 years. The college terms were very lively, but the summers there were very quiet. The college was not in session. There were no students about. Most of the faculty took the summer off. They went to Maine or to France or other romantic sounding places. We stayed home on our farm and tended our garden. The highlight of the summer for those of us who stayed was the Gambier Summer Conference, where the Episcopal clergy and lay people and their families from all over the diocese came to campus, stayed in the dorms, and enjoyed a week of speakers and workshops and rest and recreation. It was like a week-long vacation Bible school for families, a time of spiritual refreshment. Every summer during that conference, Beth and I led a morning workshop for youngsters that was called Jesus Was a Farmer. I know that we're told that Jesus was a carpenter. But if you listen to his parables, so many of them are about agriculture. And of course, that's because the people of his time all had gardens or little farms outside the village, and they understood what Jesus was trying to say through those parables. That little workshop was structured around the teachings and parables of Jesus having to do with gardening and farming and spiritual growth. Like the parable of the sower, which we heard in the gospel for today. We would pack the bed of our pickup with bales of hay. We would pick up the kids at the dorm, take a hay ride to our farm where we did work projects. We used tools like shovels and chainsaws and hay hooks and post hole diggers, things that those kids didn't have hanging in their garage. And we did real work that made a real difference. The kids stretched fence, they cut up dead trees, they hauled hay, they cut down and burned thistles and thorns, they fed the cows, and late mid-morning they went to our garden and harvested the food for their snack time. This was initially a very disturbing experience for them. They were not excited about eating broccoli or cabbage or cauliflower that they had brought in. But they were amazed at how different it tasted right out of good soil. And during that break, we would share with them Jesus' parables, like the one we just heard today. A sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. So, a packed down path is not a good spot to plant a garden. Jesus is teaching us how to be good soil and produce good fruit. Good soil needs to be soft, not hard. The hard packed path gets trampled and packed down and crops can't grow there. The seeds will never take root because of the hardness of the soil, and that's why we plow or till or dig to break up the soil so the seeds have room to grow. Once I deep dig a garden bed that is about 2 feet down, once I do that, I never step on it again. The soil stays soft and fluffy. The roots seem to like that soft soil. Plants seem to thrive. But there is a condition sometimes in gardens and fields that is known as hardpan. Have you ever heard of hardpan? Right. Hardpan is a hard-packed layer of soil just below the depth of your plow or tiller or shovel. It's usually about 6 to 8 inches down. It's like a thick layer of hard clay. It's like a hard path that's just underneath the surface. You can't tell it's there by looking. The soil may be soft on the surface, but plants won't thrive. Their roots can't get through that hard pan. For them to be healthy, deep-rooted and strong, hard pan must be broken up. There are, unfortunately, many who are hard pan people. They seem soft and look good on the surface, but down below there's a hard shell that needs to be broken up. Hard pan Christians are followers who will go only so far with God and then no farther. They are like the rich young ruler. Remember, Jesus asked him to break through, and instead he went away. They tend to be shallow-rooted people with a tendency towards shallow concerns. They would rather surf the internet than stand on the beach hearing Jesus teach. They thirst for meaning, but they settle for entertainment. They need to hear the good news, but instead they listen to talk shows and bad news. They are longing for love, but settling for hits on social media. We need to understand this hard pan of the soul exists, and we need to pray to break through it. Life is meant to have depth. God is not shallow. It's good to ask deep questions. It's good to wrestle with deep thoughts. We will never have breakthroughs if we don't dig down deep. I really believe that the depth of the Anglican tradition makes a particular contribution to Christianity in this way. In a garden, when soil is soft way down deep, then water goes way down deep. And when water goes way down deep, then roots go way down deep, seeking the water. And that's how plants become deep-rooted and strong. And that's how we want our Christian lives to be. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they had not much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Rocky soil is equally as bad as hardpan. Roots get blocked by stones. They can't get through to deep moisture, and in the heat of the sun, they're scorched. Many times on old farmland, you will come upon what seem to be random piles of stones. Big stones, little rocks, all shapes, all sizes, laying in piles on the edges of cleared fields. These piles represent untold hours of persistently clearing them out of the fields year after year so that the crops will have a better chance. So, also in our interior lives, there are hard things that weigh us down and block our fruitfulness. This is not like hardpan that can be broken through. These hard and heavy obstructions need to be removed. Over the years, Ray and I have prayed for several of you who have had kidney stones. Lord have mercy. If you've had that experience, you will have a sense of the pain that these hard spiritual obstructions can cause. Things inside us which block us spiritually are every bit as painful as kidney stones. Jesus repeatedly cast spiritual obstructions out and he commanded his disciples to do likewise. So, what makes us rocky soil? Where do these hard rocks come from? Three main things. First, from unhealed emotional wounds from the past, often from our childhood. These impact our present experience as a tendency toward either fear or anger. Secondly, sins against us that we have not forgiven and still resent. Unforgiveness can make us sick in the body as well as in the soul. Jesus spoke constantly about this. And the third thing that obstructs us from within are the sins of our own that we're afraid to acknowledge or confess. We need to remember that Jesus went to the cross to deal with our guilt. We need to be brave enough to expose our gift and be real about the things that we have done or the things that we've left undone. But when these things, our wounds, our resentments, and our sins are dealt with in prayer, things begin to change in us and around us. But if we leave these rocks in our souls, they will cause our best intentions to shrivel and die on the vine. We need them out of our lives if our lives are to be good soil which will bring forth good fruit. In the fence rows of our lives there should be piles of stone, which we and those who have helped us have cast out of our lives. These represent the persistent years of working at becoming good soil. Jesus said other seeds fell upon thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Competition is continuous in the garden. Good soil that will grow great vegetables will also grow great weeds. No matter how hard a farmer tries, weeds find their way into his fields. They seem to keep coming up. And we live in a culture that keeps coming at us with its promises and its cares that choke our time and cheapen our intentions. It's very easy to get engaged by fruitless concerns that never stop from one false crisis to the next, whether it's political issues or the Weather Channel. The weeds and thistles and thorns of the present culture crowd out what is good and cause us to forget to love what is true and noble, just and pure, lovable and gracious, excellent and admirable. True and noble, just and pure, lovable and gracious, excellent and admirable. Doesn't that sound good? Where did those words come from? Page 443 of the Book of Common Prayer. But where have they gone? We never hear them anymore. They've been choked out by our culture. But they still remain descriptions of fruitful living. The kind of living that Jesus reminds us is possible for any person with the help of God. The beautiful thing about the Christian life is that it requires no special talent, no great intelligence, no superior advantages. It can be well lived by anyone. But it does require good soil. Good, deep, soft soil. I planted my first garden in 1975 in Gainesville, Florida. I read about it all winter. In the spring, I went to a feed store to buy seeds, and a crusty old Florida cracker waited on me. He wore bib overalls to work, and he had a chew going. I was thoroughly intimidated. But I persevered. I had read several books over the winter, and I asked this old boy questions about soil pH and the best times to plant and organic seeds, all of which clearly irritated him. When finally I mentioned companion planting, that is, what plants do best growing next to certain other plants, it was more than he could bear. He exploded. "Here, son," he said, "just take these seeds out into your yard, kick a hole in the ground with your heel, throw them in it, stomp on them, go away, leave them alone, they'll grow." He was right. I've tried it. They will grow. But the thing is, they won't grow well. They won't thrive. Deep, soft garden beds with good soil, without rocks, without hardpan, will grow them abundantly. We need the hardpan of our hearts to be broken, and the rocks cast out of our soul, and the thistles and thorns of the culture cleared from the gardens of our hearts and minds. It's a lot of work, but it's real work that makes a real difference. And the Lord desires to work alongside us. This is what the epistle today means. When Paul proclaims, if we are yoked with Christ, we are fellow heirs with Christ, provided we suffer with Him. That is, work along with Him in order that we might become good soil. As for what gets sown on good soil, Jesus says, this is he who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears good fruit and yields in one case 100-fold, in another 60, and another 30. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise be to you, Lord Christ.